Strand Young Life Banquet. My name is Hayden Wolfarth, and I am on staff in the Grand Strand with Young Life. And this year, I know it looks a little different. We got some folks joining us on Facebook Live. If you want to give them a little wave in the camera right there. But really, y'all, it is a joy to gather together with you guys here and celebrate the mission of Young Life. If you look in your program, you'll see there's a picture of a volunteer leader here in the area. And I just want to invite you guys to be praying for them as they walk into the lives of high schools and colleges and really walk into the lives of those kids. To start our night, I want to introduce my friend Scott Jordan. He serves on the Young Life Committee here in the Grand Strand, and he is going to pray for us.
Thank you, Hayden. Well, good evening and welcome to the annual Young Life Banquet. First, I just want to let you know how much we really appreciate everyone that is in attendance here tonight and everyone that's watching on Facebook Live also. I hope you are as excited as I am about what I know is going to be a truly inspiring and entertaining evening. Now, Jordan and Hayden asked me to just deliver an opening prayer. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But first, on behalf of the committee, I really want to just thank Jordan, Hayden, and all of the leaders for just finding a way this past year to overcome these great obstacles. We just appreciate everything that they've done to keep these students safe over the past year, and yet still find a way to be involved and be in their lives during a year when really they needed Young Life maybe more than ever. So if you would please pray with me. Lord, we pray tonight for continued healing of our nation and our world, and we ask that you strengthen and comfort those affected by the pandemic. Lord, we thank you for Grand Strand Young Life, and we thank you for being present in the hearts and minds of Young Life staff and volunteers as they help students in our area get to know you. We ask that you continue to help Grand Strand Young Life enhance and change lives with your message of love. We pray for the young people in our area that they may find peace and hope in you and in your plan for them. Please help all of us to identify and embrace opportunities to help others, because it is in serving others that we serve you. Amen. And now I know that on your way in, you probably noticed all of our air traffic controllers out there doing a great job. And as I stand up here, I feel like I'm at the front of an airplane,
Goodness, look at all these beautiful people. Wow, this is incredible. It's the best night of my life.
Why can't I have that
one?
one?
So excited. Hold on.
This is my good side.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Sully.
Hey, and I'm Amelia.
That's right, and we get to welcome you to Northwest Airlines.
That's right.
The Grand Strand's newest airline partner.
That's right. Northwest Airlines, a Kanye West conglomerate.
See, I think only half the room got that one. And I did warn you that one wasn't going to land.
All right, hey.
We talked about that before we came out here.
There's a camera, there's people.
Uh-huh.
All right, there's no need to break character over one joke. We're here all night.
You're right.
We're here all night.
Plenty of time. Lay low, Sully.
Yes.
Like
Calm
I
down.
said, my name is Sully. Sully Sullenberger.
Sullenberger.
Yeah.
No way.
Yahweh.
Miracle on the Hudson?
Well,
Did you land that plane in the water? Did you save all those people?
I mean,
was there a movie after? You're so humble. You didn't even tell me.
there was a movie,
Wow.
and I am pretty humble.
But unfortunately, I think you heard me wrong. You know, I said Sully's selling burgers, like flipping burgers, bun to the patty, a little ketchup tomato bath.
Oh, okay.
Ketchup, tomato
okay.
bath?
So I'm a little embarrassed.
I see why.
And I'm also not surprised. You don't look anything like Tom Hanks. You know, I should have just went with my gut on that one.
Okay.
Next time, I won't make that mistake.
Feels like a low blow, but we're going to roll with it. Anyway, like I said, we get to welcome you to Northwest Airlines, the newest carriers for this city, Myrtle Beach, and we're taking you to some of the coolest destinations.
That is right.
Places
Non-stop.
like Latrobe.
Places like Aiken.
Can't wait to go there.
Uh-huh.
Places like Hartford. You gotta
Places
say it like you got a popcorn in your throat. Yeah.
Okay,
Hartford,
well,
Hartford.
you know, there's kind of something going around, so you want to keep that to yourself.
Fair
Hey,
enough. Fair enough.
or maybe even places like Newark.
Oh,
Newark. Great
Love
stuff
it.
there.
Love
Great
it
stuff
there.
in Newark.
Love it there this time
Been
of year.
twice.
You know, I had a layover there last week.
Did you?
Yep.
No one asked.
45-minute layover.
All right, all right.
45-minute layover.
All right.
Anywho, it's not about the destination.
No.
Is it, Amelia?
It is.
It's not about the destination.
No.
It's about the fact that we are slightly more reliable than Spirit Airlines. And that's enough for us.
That's right. If you thought we were better than telling that kind of joke, you're wrong.
We didn't say
you're
we were better than
absolutely wrong.
Frontier.
Okay?
Yeah.
Listen, I want to be completely honest with you guys, okay? Transparency is, you know, telling the truth when no one asked you, okay? We thought we were here to promote Northwest Airlines, maybe get you guys to sign up for a credit card,
That's
get
right.
some frequent flyer miles going, and
That's right.
I'll tell you what, to my surprise, as we were walking up to the door, this tall glass of water comes running up to us, blonde hair, Hayden. Y'all seen him? Listen, I tell you
so
what.
excited.
He could call me. He could call me. Well, listen, he came running. He
interesting.
came running up to us, okay, and flipped the script on us.
Just absolutely came crashing down on my face.
the bait and switch, I think they call
Yep.
it.
It was
yeah.
terrifying. Mm-hmm. Tell them what they did. Tell them what he did.
Well, you know, he said, hey guys, leave the credit cards in the car. We actually need you to be the in-flight entertainment for tonight's fundraiser.
I don't want you to miss this. He asked us to be the in-flight entertainment.
Right.
All right? Hit my ego hard. Hit
I don't
my
know if you
ego real
noticed, but
hard.
this isn't even an airplane.
You know, I did notice.
It's
I
not.
did notice.
No
What's
matter how hard you
interesting-
try, no matter how many clouds you blow up.
What's interesting, Amelia, is this. Okay? He asked us to lighten the mood. I guess each of you paid a really hefty fund to be in here tonight. Maybe the
Silly.
seats had an expensive
Silly,
price tag
silly,
attached
silly,
to
silly,
them,
silly.
or some
You
of you
don't-
are feeling a little tense right now.
So
you know.
you don't remember because you were passed out as Hayden ran up to us.
He ran
You were a
fast.
little afraid.
Terrified me.
But he said that no one actually paid money to be here.
Huh.
They actually paid money for their drinks.
Oh.
And so it's free for them to be here.
Interesting.
I don't get it.
But it's a fundraiser.
yeah, I don't get it either.
Makes absolutely no sense.
They should have sold credit cards.
Paid nothing to be here. But I do feel like as I came to, and my consciousness was revived.
Yes.
I feel like I remember him saying that they will be asked for money at the end of the night or something like that.
Yeah, I remember him saying that they were and that we shouldn't mention it.
We shouldn't mention it.
Yeah, but you know what
But
you did.
transparency.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, I get it.
It's
So
tough.
there's a little bit of tension because they're going to be asked for money. So we're here to lighten the mood, which
Lighten
I
the
feel
mood.
like we're doing.
Right, so everyone get on your feet.
I
yeah.
feel like we're no. Don't stand up.
Oh, okay.
Don't stand up. We're trying to stay spaced out.
All right.
Amelia.
Yeah,
6
yeah,
feet.
okay.
6 feet. All right. But I don't understand why it still feels like there's a little bit of turbulence in the air.
You know, I thought it was just me.
Like, do you? It's almost like a bunch of feet are like rumbling
I thought it was just me.
in the
but
back of the room. What's
is that
going?
coming from the back of the room?
It's causing me to shake all over.
I mean, is that a bird? Is it a plane? Is it the COVID-19 vaccine? No, I think it's some high school and college kids
Oh
flying
my
in the room.
goodness! Look at all of them.
Oh,
Give it up
my
for them,
goodness.
everybody. Give it
Oh,
up
my
for them,
goodness.
everybody.
Watch out
They're
for that
flying
projector.
in. Flying in. Look at all
Wow-wee.
these amazing people. Wow. You know, Amelia, I feel like this aircraft has absolutely reached max capacity.
Yeah, if you mean by aircraft room, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not breaking character. Anyway, hey, on the count of 3, why don't y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves to these kind people? 1, 2, 3.
All right, hey, on the count of 3, what I want you to do is tell me your favorite color, your favorite class in school, and the best thing about Young Life. 1, 2, 3. Did y'all get that? So did I.
I didn't. I didn't.
I heard a lot
You
of
passed out
blues. A
again.
lot of blues.
Hey, I wish that we had time to hear every one of these kind folks' stories tonight, Amelia. I really wish we did. But you know what? Here's what we're going to do instead. Why don't y'all go ahead and find your seats. Hey, y'all, give it up for them. Give it up for them. And tonight, as the real in-flight entertainment, I get to introduce my very good friend, Nick Crowder, to y'all, who's going to come and share a little bit of his story. Y'all, give it up for Nick Crowder.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Well, as you know, my name is Nick Crowder, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a sophomore at Myrtle Beach High School. Tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal story. I grew up in Myrtle Beach and would say that I always knew a lot about God growing up in a Christian household. I knew He loved me, and I always knew He was there. I just never felt connected to Him. God felt like a bench player, like Lou Williams. He was there, just in the background. He felt more like a subject at school than my Lord and Savior. Fast forward to middle school, I went through a really tough time in my life. My faith in God was wavering, and I started doubting that people cared. I felt like in a crowded room, God cared more about everyone else than me. I felt like I was on the back burner. I became convinced that ending my life was the only way God would care in people to start caring. I'm glad something happened before it came to that. Towards the end of middle school and beginning of high school, I met this guy named Jordan. Him and I started meeting weekly for an hour at Starbucks on 82nd Avenue. We'd go and talk about life and just have coffee. It was a great time. I always knew he was connected to Young Life, but I never knew what Young Life was. Later, once I got into high school, he invited me to campaigners. I would make every excuse not to go. Homework, just anything. Finally, after the 1,000th time, I caved. I went there for the first time and hated it so very much. And I don't have a great reason why. Well, look at me now. I'm speaking at Young Life, and we host campaigners at my house every Monday with my wonderful parents. Everything in my life changed when I started going to Young Life. It really turned around when I went to Campaigners Weekend last summer. I met so many amazing people, I couldn't name them all tonight. I got so close with old friends that I haven't talked to in years, even made some new ones. It changed my opinion on God. I knew that He loved me, and I knew no matter what, He cared, and other people would always have my back. And I'd just like to say, thank you so very much, everybody. Tonight is just a wonderful thing, and I just thank you for listening to everything I have to say.
Hey, y'all, I'm going to pray over Nick. God, thank you so much for this friendship that started at a Starbucks and is now transformed into many early morning breakfasts and chances to talk about you and just do life together. God, I thank you for Nick and the Crowders and their willingness to host campaigners and just come alongside this ministry. And Lord, I pray that you would just be with Nick tonight. God, that you would meet him, fill him up with your spirit. In His name I pray. Amen.
Hey everyone, as I said, my name is Hayden, and I'm on full-time staff with Young Life here in the Grand Strand. Got another mic over there. And something about me is my primary focus here is to develop Young Life along the South Strand, to help establish Young Life College at Coastal Carolina, and to care for volunteer leaders.
And my name is Jordan Schiffmacher, not Sully. I'm sorry to break that for you. But my name is Jordan. I've been the area director here for a little over 4.5 years. I get to oversee all of Young Life along the Grand Strand with a focus on developing Young Life right here in the Myrtle Beach area.
And believe it or not, we were here about a year ago. Some of y'all might have been here. It was February 20th. It was a very cold and rainy evening. In fact, we almost got snow. And within the next month or so, things started to look really different in our world. I don't need to go into this too much. Y'all have lived through it, and so have we. And despite the changing things around us, Young Life leaders have been doing the same thing that they always have, stepping into the lives of high school kids like Nick and college students and loving them right where they are. And we've seen that the need has stayed the same. Adolescents need to hear and see the truth about who Jesus is. They need to see how much he loves them. They also need caring adults who are willing to step into their lives and share this good news with them, not only with just words, but also just by being a friend to them.
More than ever before, students have been able to find a place of belonging and growth through the Young Life College ministry at Coastal Carolina. This is something that we worked really hard to develop over the last year, and so we're super grateful to get to see the fruits of it so quickly. Through Young Life College, students are able to walk through some of the most influential years of their lives alongside a Young Life leader. And as leaders, we hope to lead them in the next steps of following Jesus. We've seen this turn into more of a connectedness between students and Christ, and students in the local church. This is a relationship that we hope will last a lifetime, long past these college years.
Through Young Life, we've also seen college students and adults finding a place to live out their faith by being a Young Life leader at a local high school or at the college. We've seen that through that, people have been able to really experience what God would have for them. In fact, we just had new leader training last week, and currently have the largest class of potential new leaders that we've ever had. And some of them are in the room tonight, and you just saw them up here. Ministries on the high school level at Myrtle Beach, St. James, and Soxie have been growing a ton as well. In November, we were able to take a fall weekend trip to Carolina Point, and it was one of the best and biggest trips we've ever taken. One of the cool things we've seen is an equal representation among these three schools that we have ministries at. At St. James, we took our first fall weekend trip ever and brought 16 kids, which we were pumped about. The Sockasty volunteer-led team took the biggest trip that they've ever taken and are growing so much. Yeah, let's hear it for Soxy. Come on. And what this means is it's more kids getting away to a Young Life camp to process real life without distractions, with adults and peers that care deeply about them, and most of all, to get a clear picture of God's position towards them. This is a position of unfailing and unchanging love. And right now, along the Grand Strand, on any given Monday night, there's around 56 kids attending Young Life campaigners, just like Nick was talking about, at different people's houses and at churches and at rec halls, whatever. People are doing campaigners. And this is a place, like you heard at Nick's house, at Nick's story, that it's a place where a kid's faith can grow drastically.
It really feels like our bags are packed, the tickets are purchased, and we're ready for takeoff. Did you like that? That was good. Come on, that was great. And so here's where we hope to go. Over the next 2 years, we would love to continue to see the Young Life College ministry flourish. In order for this to happen, we're hoping for a couple caring adults to come alongside of us and join the Grand Strand Young Life Committee. You see, what happens when adults decide to serve this ministry by joining the committee is they create a sustainable foundation that allows folks like Hayden and I and all these volunteer leaders that you've seen tonight to continue to do the good work with students that we love doing and want to do more of. If joining the committee is something that you may be interested in or have more questions about, please let us know. We'd love to talk with you.
Over the next 2 years, we also want to move into the next geographical ring of high schools in our area, from North Myrtle to Waccamaw to Carolina Forest and Conway. We'd also like to launch Young Life's ministry that is specifically designed for middle school students. Appropriately enough, in Young Life, we call this Wildlife. Our hope is that kids like Nick wouldn't have to wait until high school to have an official Young Life leader. Our vision in this is to start at one middle school and centered around that and then grow outward from there. We've already seen a ton of folks who have been wanting to be a part of this and have hopped on and getting excited about it, and we want more. So if this is something that excites you, please let us know.
So that's where we hope to go. The destination looks incredible. And just like any good trip, it'll cost you something to get there. If you look inside of your program, you'll see this Grand Strand Young Life financial breakdown. Our fiscal year in Young Life runs from October through September. Our current operating budget for the year is $180,000. Of that $180,000, 60% goes towards compensation and benefits for Hayden and I. Now, I'd love to say that our take-home pay between the two of us is $108,000 a year, but wrapped up into that number are all the costs of the area, which include taxes, insurance, things like that. 23% goes towards the programmatic expenses of the direct ministry activities that we do with students, leaders throughout the entire year. And then 17% goes to all the necessary behind-the-scenes things like income processing, legal, HR, things that we need to see happen. Currently, we have raised $87,613 this year through monthly pledged donations as well as one-time gifts that have been given since October. And really quick, if you have been a part of that, thank you so much. We want you to know that your support of Young Life is felt, and we really appreciate it. That leaves an outstanding need of $92,387 to be raised this year. Tonight, we hope to raise over half of that. Our fundraising goal for this Young Life banquet is $50,000. Now, I know that that was a lot of numbers. Here's the reality. Every dollar raised in Young Life is more time and energy that we get to spend entering into the world of kids and students, loving them right where they're at, and pointing them towards the love of Christ. Here to paint a bigger picture of Young Life is my very good friend, Cliff Wright. Y'all give it up for Cliff, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Use a tall drink of water. How about that? Wow. I live in North Carolina where they don't let people get together yet. And so it feels really good to be in a room of human beings. Whoops. How do you take that backwards? Not like that. So we're going to talk about that in about 20 minutes, but that's okay. There we are. This is my second time getting to speak at the Grand Strand Young Life Banquet. The first time was 3 or 4 years ago, and we were pitching this vision, standing behind luggage. We were pitching this vision of what if we started Young Life in the South Strand. We talked about the incredible opportunity with the population that's growing there. We talked about how there had been a development of proof of concept up here in this part of the city, and the Lord lit a fire in some people. And here we are, only a couple of years later, and there's kids in the room from those schools, and there's folks, and it's amazing to come and see how God takes things from being ideas and breathes them into reality. It's like what he's been doing since Genesis chapter 1, is that he brings something out of nothing. But the amazing thing is that God has already planted, just like he did those years ago, a few years ago. I remember when, just a couple of years ago, when we were talking about it, God had already planted it in the hearts of some of you all who are in this room to really pick up the torch and develop this new thing. And so we have stories to tell. We have incredible stories to tell. The story I'd like to tell tonight starts in 1970. That's right. Some of you weren't even born yet. Tough crowd. It was 1970. The Vietnam War was raging. Richard Nixon was president. Jimi Hendrix died that year. Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water was the #1 song. My mom was beginning her junior year at the University of Maryland, and my beloved Baltimore Orioles won their second World Series. Oh, how times have changed. That fall, at Myers Park High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, a Young Life leader named Dick Guerin walked into the high school. In that high school of thousands of kids, there was one self-described, pretty unimpressive junior named Bill Goins. He was on the wrestling team, and not unlike Nick, he hated Young Life. He was just another lost teenager, but Dick Guerin started showing up and getting to know Bill, though Bill was obviously standoffish. Shortly into the fall, some friends got Bill to go to his first Young Life club. Bill was nervous to go. His friends had told him that he was going to have to give a speech because it was his first time. So he was nervous. They were just messing with him. You don't have to give a speech at your first Young Life club, although I really do enjoy telling first-timers that when they show up to a Young Life club and seeing them sweat. It's usually some freshman guy that's halfway through puberty, and he's like, "Really?" And he pulls out his phone to dial his mom to come pick him up because he can't drive yet. But they were just messing with him. That night, there was singing, there were silly skits, and at the end of the night, Dick shared about Jesus Christ. Bill was that kid. He disrupted the talk, just like I did, just like some of you did, and all of us deserve everything that teenagers do to us now. But Bill disrupted the talk. He cut up the whole time. But at the end of the talk, he did happen to notice that there were a bunch of cute girls there, and so he decided to come back the next week for that very reason. Bill really wasn't interested in any of what Dick was talking to him about, but he kept coming back for the fun and for the girls. But it grew on him, like it does with so many kids in 1970. What Dick didn't know about Bill is that things were really hard in Bill's family. His father had died suddenly at an early age, and Bill held strongly to the opinion that life was hard and unfair and difficult and unreliable. His home was volatile and frequently violent, and it was for that reason that he actually signed up for the Young Life camp trip that summer, was to get away from all of that. Of course, nobody knew. But Bill got on the bus and he drove out west, and he essentially lived with these Young Life people for the entire trip. And on that, he noticed that there was something really different about these folks. There was something different about them and him. They were excited about life. They were living. They really had something. They loved him. They listened to the things that he had to say. They wanted to know his opinion. And so they got to the Young Life camp, and they had great adventures. Every single night there was a Young Life club, which is that crazy, wild outreach event, a party with a purpose. And at the end of the night, Bill remembers that there was a Young Life staff person from Minnesota who would get up and talk every night. And for a kid from Charlotte, North Carolina, that was hilarious to listen to a Minnesotan talk. So he would imitate him every night and cut up and disrupt the talk. But that's how the week went. Bill talking to girls from all over the country, making fun of the guy that was talking about Jesus, and kind of being a fly on the wall as his friends in their cabin processed what they had heard each night. That was until the night towards the end of the week when the speaker began to talk about what Jesus did on the cross, and for some unexplained reason, Bill got up from where he was sitting and moved over to sit next to his Young Life leader, Dick Guerin. Bill would later say that night, as the guy from Minnesota talked about Jesus, that he felt like he was the only one in the entire room, and that everything that man with the funny accent said seemed like he was talking directly to him. It was like everything he was talking about, Bill said, was what he had been looking for his entire life. He just didn't know it. And so when the man from Minnesota finished speaking, Dick Guerin leaned over to Bill and he said, "Bill, would you like to invite Jesus Christ into your life?" Bill said, "I sure would." And so that night at Woodleaf Camp in Challenge, California, a Young Life camp, Bill Goins asked Jesus into his life. He didn't know what had happened. He started crying. Everybody around him was crying, and he was getting hugged by all those pretty girls. Should all give our lives to Christ. After that, Dick, he told Bill and a few other Myers Park High School guys that who had made the same decision that if they were serious about following Jesus, they should show up at his house at 7:30 in the morning for the rest of the summer. Most high schoolers do not know that 7:30 exists in the morning in the summertime. But they got up every morning and they would go to his house. They would open the Bible. They would talk about what it meant. The guys would pepper Dick Guerin with every question they could think of. 98% of those had to do with sex and girls. The other 2% were theological matters. But all senior year for Bill, Dick would show up at Bill's house in his Carmen Ghia Volkswagen, and they would spend the day together anytime that they could. Bill said that Dick would take him to restaurants, teach him how to play racquetball, teach him about Jesus. Towards the end of his senior year, he realized there are thousands of kids in this school. Why did I get picked? Bill actually finished up at Myers Park High School and enrolled at UNC Charlotte, home of the 49ers and proud alma mater of Schiffmachers. He became a Young Life leader at a high school called Garinger, and then after that he went on Young Life staff, serving in Greenville, North Carolina, or Greenville, South Carolina. Very different from Greenville, North Carolina. Quite different. Different Chamber of Commerce, many things. But at some point, Young Life decided to move Bill to Greensboro, North Carolina, where in the fall of 2000, when Faith Hill's Breathe was the #1 song, when the dreaded and terrible New York Yankees won the pennant, when George W. Bush and Al Gore tied for the presidential election and apparently decided who was going to rule the free world playing paper, rock, scissors, or staring at ballots determining what a hanging Chad was. In that fall, Bill walked into Grimsley High School, up to one self-described, pretty unimpressive junior on the soccer team who was raised in church but struggling with faith in God, and said to him, "You're Cliff, right?" To which I said, "I am Cliff Wright." That year, some friends invited me to Young Life Camp, or to Young Life Club, and that summer, Bill invited me onto a bus to a Young Life camp out west in Colorado. And it was there, through his friendship, that I was invited into a relationship with Jesus Christ that has changed everything in my life. It's changed what job I do, how I feel about race and inequality. It's changed how I raise my children, who I marry. It's changed where I live. And what's more is, somewhere along the way, I have become absolutely convinced that there's going to be a day where I'm going to take a deep breath, and it's going to be the last breath that I breathe, and I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to open them again, and I'm going to see him, the one who sent Bill Goins into my high school, and the one who sent Dick Guerin into his, the one who sent a bunch of people into a bunch of people's lives, going back to a great commission where that same one said, "Go into all the world, and I'll be with you." In Young Life circles, I've already had coronavirus. I'm good. In Young Life staff circles, we are very fond of the phrase, "I'm so glad Young Life didn't quit before it came to my school." Well, I think tonight I'd like to say I'm so glad that Young Life didn't quit before it came to my Young Life Leaders School. And I thank God that in the 1950s, a community of adults in the cities of Charlotte and Greensboro were so burdened for kids in those days to know Jesus in their city that they fundraised and they networked and they petitioned Young Life to begin in Charlotte and in Greensboro, and they ensured that Dick Guerin's and Bill Goins's and Jordan Schiffmachers's would always be present in the lives of kids for the sake of Jesus and the next generation, because that was the cry of their hearts, is that the next generation would know Jesus. And this cry is the fight that we find ourselves in today. And it's not a new one. All through history, adults, parents, policymakers, preachers, poets, artists have had the same thoughts about adolescence. You might not believe this, but kids these days has been uttered by every generation of adults that has ever walked the planet. And it was uttered about you. Kids these days. And you guys sitting in the back, you're going to say it too. Right? They've had the same opinions and worries about teenagers and what's influencing them. In fact, ever since people have been writing and recording really anything, the adult community has been worried about adolescence. The Christian adult community specifically worried that they would have a deep and lasting faith. Truly, did you know this? In the Renaissance, adults feared not for smartphones and for Snapchats, but rather for the penny broadsheets that were being passed out to kids on street corners that had vulgarities and talk about sexuality in them. And then during the Puritans' time, they protested the Enlightenment. During colonial times, and this is true, there's actually a letter that exists from an Anglican preacher that came to the colonies and observed that kids in their churches were not paying attention to anything. And he writes this letter back. The letter exists. And he says, perhaps, and you're going to love this, perhaps we should invest in better musicians so that we might hold the attention of the younger crowd. Wow. We might all resonate with Jack Pearson from NBC's hit show This Is Us when he says while buying a Jeep Wagoneer in season 1, I just want to know that whatever happens, that my kids are going to be okay. I just want to know that whatever happens, that my kids are going to know Jesus. And that's why you're here tonight. Because it's our time to make an impact. It's our time. Because you know that there's more of them out there. And that they're just like we were. I mean, they're just like us. They're more kids. They're tall kids. They're short kids. They're skinny kids. They're not skinny kids. White kids, brown kids, black kids, Indian kids, Hindu kids, Muslim kids, boy kids, girl kids, some that aren't sure kids, immigrant kids, refugees, all-star headline kids and no-name kids, musicians, artists, dreamers, and burnout kids. A whole world of kids, city kids, suburban kids, country kids, rednecks, roughnecks, pencil necks, no necks. There's kids with special gifts and kids with special needs. There are kids who have kids. A whole world of kids, just like we were one time. And there is not one of them that God the Father did not knit together in their mother's womb, that Jesus Christ did not shed his precious blood on the cross for, and that the Holy Spirit does not long to breathe new life into. There is not one of them for whom, if they knew their worth, their value, their purpose, if they knew their Maker, that it would not change everything about their lives. That's why we're here tonight, trying to raise $50,000, trying to build committees, trying to invest in mentors and volunteers for this work, trying to figure out how to make sure that there are human beings in the Grand Strand that are intentionally invading the private isolation of our adolescents. And it's harder than ever to get to them. It takes more innovation. It takes more dogged persistence to get there. We're here tonight to make sure that that continues. Because the kids that you're waiting in the car rider line to pick up today are really only probably 12 or 15 years away from waiting in a car rider line themselves. The thing about doing ministry with the youth of today is that the youth of today will be the adults of tomorrow in 2 years. And we'll be asking ourselves in churches again, how do we get them to come to church? We should have reached them when the government mandated that they all be in the same place at the same time every day. We should have put missionaries at the doors of those buildings to ensure that there was a life raft thrown into the water for every single person. They might not grab onto it, and indeed they won't, and I've seen so many. It's kind of a secret that every Young Life leader hates graduations. We all hate graduations because we hate watching the kids walk across the stage that we never knew and walk out the door and go to college or go into the military or go into their jobs, and to know that we missed them. We never knew their names. Fortunately, God has other tools in his toolbox than Young Life. And I'm not trying to propose that Young Life is the only one. But I know that it's a tool that he loves to use. That he builds things and he refines them, he shapes them, he whittles things with this tool. Young Life's mission statement is introducing adolescents to Jesus Christ and helping them grow in their faith. Now, these are 2 points that should exist in really any ministry to teenagers, but the order of them is important. First, introducing adolescents to Jesus Christ. In order to introduce adolescents to Jesus Christ, you have to know adolescents that don't know Jesus Christ. So Young Life is not primarily a fellowship group. The fellowship is born out of the mission. I personally believe, and most of the Young Life folks that I know believe, that fellowship and family forms best around a common mission. In order to introduce adolescents to Jesus Christ, you have to know adolescents that don't know Jesus Christ. And in order to know adolescents that don't know Jesus Christ, you have to go to the places where adolescents who don't know Jesus Christ go. And sometimes those are gnarly places. You have to go there, and you have to spend time with them, adolescents that don't know Jesus Christ. And so, from time to time and place to place, Young Life gets kind of a bad rap. I understood. I grew up going to church, and then I looked at Young Life, and I saw many of the kids that go to Young Life do not act like Christians. Is Young Life a Christian thing? My 9th grade year at Northwest Guilford High School, before I transferred to Grimsley, I saw a bunch of very pretty girls wearing Young Life t-shirts, and I asked my friend, John, I said, John, what's Young Life? And he said, oh, it's a blank party on a weeknight. You got to get your blank there. And I was like, I don't think my mom is going to let me go to that. It was a confusing thing. How come if it's a Christian thing, most of the people there don't act like Christians? It's because the Young Life leaders intentionally spend time with people that don't act like Christians. But the second point, to help them grow in their faith. I mean, honestly, if you were to go into a local high school and you say, hey, show of hands, who loves Young Life? A lot of the people that would raise their hands would be those kind of bad habit kids that you're not sure that you want your kid to hang out with. But if you looked more closely at the raised hand survey, you would discover that in the midst of the larger group of many kids that don't portray Christian values, there are a red-hot group of vision carriers at the middle of that who do get it and are not taking this little light of mine and hiding it under a bushel, but they're actually taking their light and going headlong into a messy and profane adolescent world, following Young Life leaders that are daily doing the same. Helping them grow in their faith to Young Life does not mean divorcing discipleship from evangelism. It's in saying, we are going to evangelize adolescents that do not know Jesus. You know Jesus. You should come with me to do this while we do it together. I feel like there was somebody else that did that. Oh. We don't divorce discipleship and evangelism. Young Life is not primarily a program, but rather it's a relationship between a leader and a kid. The program grows out of a desire to serve and protect that sacred relationship where kids can be themselves and take their masks off when the government says that they can. The programmatic aspects serve as conversation starters and touch points, but you should know that it's an article in the statement of faith for Young Life that we will love a kid regardless of their response to the gospel. But we stay involved in their lives. Young Life leaders keep showing up into their worlds, walking with them, helping them find a church to go to, and teaching them to reach their friends. I love this because I love the church. I'm a member at a PCA church in Charlotte, which is a very serious church. I love the church. I believe that Young Life is uniquely positioned to serve the church as a vehicle for our covenant children, which is what we call them, for our covenant children to be able to live out the Great Commission in their lives. I believe that Young Life and the church work incredibly well together, and I've gotten to see it. But boiled down, Young Life is this. Our message is Jesus. Our mission is kids, and our method is relationships. Our message is Jesus, our mission is kids, and our method is relationships. I might have just messed that up, but there's a story in Luke chapter 8 in the Bible where Jesus is going through the middle of a crowd. People are pressing in all around him. It says this, as Jesus went, the people pressed around him, and there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and she touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" You know, honestly, his disciples must have been like, "I'm sorry, Jesus, who didn't touch you?" People are practicing all around you. But there's this woman who's been bleeding for 12 years. And by the way, isn't that an incredible description of what's going on with teenagers? They've got something that's going on underneath the surface that they know isn't quite right, quite the way that it's supposed to be. And oh, have they gone to many physicians. They've gone to the physicians of success. They've gone to the physician of rebellion, drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll. They've gone to the physicians of video games and lost themselves in those worlds. They've gone to the physicians of achievement on the sports field, achievement in the bedroom. They've gone to the physician of achievement by getting the best car and souping it up and doing donuts in the high school parking lot until they run into their young life leader's car. They've gone to many physicians, and they've spent their money and they've spent every ounce of capital that they've got, and they've only gotten worse. And honestly, it's been going on for them for about 12 years. But this woman goes to Jesus, she touches his cloak as he passes through the crowd, and she's healed. You know, young life is the cloak of Jesus Christ passing through the crowd of adolescents. You realize anybody could have reached onto to his cloak that day. Anybody could have. But there was one woman who was just squirrely enough to crawl on her hands and knees through the crowd, covering her bleeding, and grab on because the cloak passed close enough to her that day. Young life is the cloak of Jesus passing through that adolescent world that's close enough for many kids to grab onto. But tonight I want to point out something else about that story. Y'all, that story started somewhere. That story started somewhere. And it started with someone. It started with someone who's not in the Bible. Someone had to have told that woman about Jesus. That person's not listed. But you have to imagine this bleeding woman. She can't get married because she can't have kids, and that's basically her entire value in that day and age. So she's living with her parents. Imagine her sweeping the house, you know, feeling the pain just like she feels every single day. But then, through the door, somebody pops their head in. And that somebody says, "Hey, you know that thing that you've got going on? The thing that, like, me and only 2 other people know about? You know that thing?" "Yes, of course I know that thing. A day doesn't go by that I don't think about that thing." "Well, I just heard that this man, Jesus," "Have you heard of him?" "No. Tell me." "I just heard that this man, Jesus, he heals people. And he's even brought dead people back to life." "Really? Jesus, this man can do that?" "Yeah." "Well, why are you telling me?" "Well, this is why I'm here. I called you, but you didn't pick up." "I'm here because that Jesus man, he's going to be passing through the village next door. We should go." How do you think that woman woke up the next morning? Do you think she woke up before the sun rose? I do. How do you think she kissed her dad goodbye when she went out of the house, hoping that she would walk back in the door different? Hope. That story started somewhere. that story started somewhere with someone who's just like us. We aren't the healers, but we know someone who is. And we know where to find him. And we also happen to believe that he is passing just close enough. And that woman's life and eternity was changed forever. And there is some unnamed person that stuck their head through the door and said, hey, that Jesus, he's coming close. And they're going to talk about him at the Young Life Club on Monday night. Our message is Jesus, the answer to every soul's longing. Our mission as kids. Young Life's founder, Jim Rayburn, said that there is a season of life where faith flowers like flowers flourish in springtime. And that God-ordained season of life is adolescence. You know, research bears this out. 2 out of 3 adult Christians say that they made a commitment to faith before their 18th birthday. How many of that, just raise your hand, how many of that is true for you in here? Made a commitment to faith before your 18th birthday. Yeah, that's probably about right. 2 out of 3 adult Christians say they made a commitment to faith before their 18th birthday, and yet the largest segment of the U.S. population that would qualify as not engaged in faith is the millennial and Gen Z, with over 52% of that segment of the population saying that faith is not important to them. This is in tandem with the fact that 6 out of 10 millennials who are my age and younger, who grew up in church, have actually walked away from it. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, what your family looks like, what type of school you go to. The battle for the heart of a teenager is just as fierce in every part of the city. It seems a very strategic battleground for the Lord and our enemy to fight over. And while negative feelings persist about teenagers, we in Young Life see kids as beautiful, hungry for life, hard-charging, not yet jaded, hopeful heroes who, if given the chance to shine, will burn bright. Do you remember what it was like to be a teenager? Homecomings, pep rallies, school plays, state championships, football games on Friday nights, high school romance, to the first time you sat behind a driver's wheel, choir concerts, spring breaks, that middle school humiliation that you were absolutely sure was going to ruin your life. The power of a rumor. The thrill of your picture in the town paper. Or that jump in your stomach when you saw the note folded like an origami from that girl. Or if it was a girl or a guy passing the note, it probably looked like a wadded up piece of paper. But when you saw that note making its way behind backs towards you, the explosive feeling of the last day of school, running from a school bus with a bag flying high in the air, or that sense at the start of a school year, a new school year, that you had changed so much over the summer and that your parents had bought you so many new clothes at the Myrtle Beach outlets that all of your friends weren't even going to recognize you. Our mission is kids, and we really like them. Our method, in closing, is relationships. Just like Dick did for Bill and Bill did for me and Jordan did for Nick, Young Life leaders enter the world of kids spending time and money and reputation. If you have not had a 15-year-old boy look at you and ask you why you don't have any friends your own age yet, you have not lived. I had a high school kid flick me off the other day, and it made me so happy. Because it was so good to be around a high school kid who felt like he could be himself to me. Just to get close enough to some insecure junior in high school who is desperate for anyone besides his parents to see something in him. And how he's teetering on the rope between childhood and being adult. How he's holding on to the things he was raised with while every wind that blows is trying to loosen his grip, to get close enough to a kid like that to say, your cliff, right? We love kids. We get to know them, and we do very funny things to be with them. 3 years ago, I took one of those great Young Life camp trips to Frontier Ranch in Colorado with kids from my area. We had the best week of our lives, and as the cherry on top of the sundae, we spent the night after camp in downtown Denver while we were killing time to catch our red eye back to Charlotte because we wanted to keep the camp price under a certain amount. So we took a red eye, which seemed like a great idea in the budget line, but at the end of a week of not sleeping, when you're not going to sleep again as an adult, that's hindsight's 2020. But while we were in Denver, we decided to take in an afternoon baseball game at Coors Field. Now, 5 years ago, the Colorado Rockies and Arizona Diamondbacks were in a breakneck battle for last place in the National League West. It was an afternoon game on a Sunday in Denver in July. Tickets were very cheap. The stadium was well below capacity, and the hometown Colorado Rockies quickly went down 5-1. As the stadium kind of fell asleep or got drunk or both at the same time, we were mercifully seated in the shadow section of the stadium. You know how in an afternoon game, the sun will beat down like the surface of Mercury on one side of the stadium and then be a very nice, cool side in the shade. We were sitting in the shade, and nobody was at the game, so nobody was sitting in the sun. And it was 5-1, and my high school friends had just had this great week, but this was supposed to be a fun little adventure. We're watching baseball, America's pastime, and they're not having fun. And so I got the idea around the 7th inning. I grabbed 4 of the squirreliest guys that I had. I like that adjective. I grabbed 4 of the squirreliest guys that I had, and I hatched a plan, and I said, fellas, let's go over to the sunny section, and let's get on the Jumbotron. And so we did. So we went over to the sunny side of the stadium, and we took our shirts off, like you do. And then, in order to get the attention of the Jumbotron people, we started doing this. Like we were swimming backwards. I don't know. I just told him to do it. In case you don't believe me, next page. So there we are. That's me in the middle. And that's us doing the backstroke. Now, after a little while of doing that, and with the home team doing nothing, we actually did get on the Jumbotron. Come on. You can clap for that. We got on the Jumbotron. And emboldened by our success, by getting on the Jumbotron, the rest of the guys who didn't have the guts to be the first ones through the wall, they came. Current slide. There we go, next page. Nope. Don't tell me what to do, please. So, yes. So there we go. So our guys kind of jumped in there, and lo and behold, we got on the Jumbotron again. Now the rule was, in order to be there, you had to take your shirt off. So it was guys only. So we did that. We were having a blast. You can see Jordan Clark there, triumphant above. But we were having so much fun, and we were getting on the Jumbotron that eventually a group of random older gentlemen who had been imbibing for the evening or the afternoon joined us. And they kind of came over, they're like, you guys look like you're having fun. And so, like, we're just the stadium's cheering section. And by the way, there was nothing to cheer about. And so we're starting cheers and the whole thing, let's go Rockies. You know, and one of my favorite, every time they do the like you just say charge at the wrong time, you know, because everybody in the stadium is supposed to say it at the end, but I always say it in the middle, and I think it's funny. Charge! Oh, dang it, I missed it again. And so we're just all doing that. We're just acting like complete fools. And we're having so much fun that random people started coming. So with that, and you can sort of see down here, those kids are wearing uniforms, and they're actually taking their shirts off because those are Little League kids who their moms brought over to join the shirtless section. And after a little while, our section got so big, every Little League team that was there was just coming over, ripping their shirts off, and standing in the shirtless section. And eventually, as we're there and we're cheering, the Rockies scored a run. It was 5-2. And we got really emboldened by that. I mean, when they scored that run, we were like, yes, Rockies! And like, we're jumping on each other and we're sweating and it's great. And older gentlemen would walk by, and as an entire group, we would chant at them, take your shirt off, until 50 and 60-year-old men were joining us as well. And it was so fun. You can see, click to the next one. Yep, and the Rockies scored again. That's a more high-def picture. The Rockies scored again. I think that's, look at these kids. What in the world? The Rockies scored again. It's 5-3. And after they scored the third run, somebody in the booth decided these guys need a name. And so they called us on the Jumbotron. Every time they'd put us up, they'd go, Colorado Rockies, shirtless rally dudes. Truly, we were trending on Twitter. And if you look it up today on Google, right now, you could do it, but don't do it. You'll find us or something that happened at a Hillary Clinton rally. Like, shirtless rally dudes. It's true. So it's the ninth inning. And I have to tell you this. This is a true story. Every ounce of it. The ninth inning. First batter up gets a single. Oh, yeah. Shirtless rally dudes going nuts. Then the second batter up walks. Yes! Come on, we've seen Moneyball. We know your batting percentage, it goes up. So the winning run comes to the plate. And it's at that time, emboldened by the sea of raging testosterone that I'm around, that I decide I am going to unleash America's greatest sports chant at this time. Maybe you know it. And so I said, shh, rally dudes, shirtless rally dudes. And the whole stadium grew silent. And I said, I! To which the shirtless rally dudes replied, I. And I said, I believe. And they go, I believe. I believe that. I believe that we. I believe that we will. And the whole stadium is doing what I'm saying. It was awesome. I believe that we will win. And everybody goes, I believe that we will win. I believe. And the whole stadium's jumping up and down. We're singing, I believe that we will win. And the pitch comes. Home run! Walk-off home run! The Rockies won! Next slide! The Rockies... Next slide! Shirtless rally dudes! Rockies win! I did that! And you have never seen a group of high school boys whose heads were so big. They would not put their shirts on until we got to the airport. As we walked through downtown Denver, girls were taking pictures with them, and they loved that. But it's true. It's a true story. It's the best. But that's how it happens in young life. You look out and you say, gosh, life should be better than this. There should be something going on over there that's not going on in North Myrtle Beach High School. And so you step out. You go to a place that most people aren't going. You do something that most people aren't doing, that maybe they're uncomfortable with, and you have so much fun along the way that everybody else wants to join in. You welcome them. You keep going. And then somewhere along the way, the magic happens. God breathes on a plan, a place, a person, and what you never really thought possible comes to life before your very eyes. The scary part is what's next. We could come here tonight to hear about some things that have happened and some miraculous stories. Believe me, I'm a huge fan of history. My dad made us stop at every single historical marker on the road growing up. Every single one. You know what I'm talking about. I love history. It's always come naturally to me. And what is more, many of my opinions about what is possible have come from brave men and women who have had the courage to be the pebble to break through the glass ceiling. But though we have a rich history in Young Life and have had a very fruitful last decade in the Grand Strand, there comes a time when it's time to stop studying history and it's time to start making it. And so we want to raise $50,000 tonight. We want to raise $50,000 tonight because there have been some incredibly generous people who believed in Young Life in this area when not many other people did. And that team has to grow. That team has to grow. I'm sure those generous people will keep giving and keep making it possible, but this is a city's ministry, not a small group's ministry. I want $50,000 because if we can have a healthy financial year in this year, then it primes us for incredible growth, hiring more staff, getting to more parts of the Grand Strand. We want to do that. That's the first thing tonight. The second thing tonight is we want more adult involvement. We want more adult involvement on committees, people who are going to own this thing and say, over my dead body, Young Life leaves the Grand Strand. Every great Young Life area is stewarded by a great Young Life committee. And the core of this committee here is incredible. And it's a snowball that you can pack in around. We want to grow the committee. We want to start wildlife. Like Hayden and Jordan pointed out, you have no idea how many middle schoolers contemplate suicide. How many middle schoolers are just, I don't think there's any of us that want to go back to middle school. You know? We would all like to be younger again, but not middle school. But we want to go into middle schools, and we want to be there for kids like Nick, because there's a lot more of them out there. And in order to do that, we're going to need caring adults. It can't just be Coastal Carolina students. And a bunch of y'all probably have middle school kids, and your kids have friends. We want to start wildlife here. We want to have a proof of concept in one area, and we believe that if we can develop a model that is easy to replicate and effective, that it will spread quickly. And then finally, we want to grow to North Myrtle Beach, Conway, and Waccamaw High School. You should know that 8 years ago, when Jordan Schiffmacher was a college student at UNC Charlotte, we had a Young Life regional weekend down here in Myrtle Beach. And I was the area director at that time, and Jordan and I and a bunch of his friends decided it was raining, we were going to go play football. I like to do things in extreme weather, can you tell? And we're going to go play football, and the nearest field was at North Myrtle Beach High School. And so we played football, full contact. It was really funny. And then we spent about 20 minutes afterwards on the grounds there praying that God would bring Young Life to North Myrtle Beach High School one day. And we believe that that day is coming soon now. And we'd ask that you would get on board with that vision. It's an incredible high school full of incredible kids and a great community. The same with Waccamaw, where my college roommate went to high school. Waccamaw High School, Trey Janes. And with Conway, to start working back in towards the state of South Carolina. I believe that people are ripe to know Jesus. I believe that the media would have us know that the Christian movement is in its last days. But I can tell you that it's growing in Africa and Asia and South America and in elementary schools in the U.S., in middle schools, and in Europe, believe it or not. The Christian church is not dying, it's growing. Aslan is on the move. Spring is coming. The ice is breaking. And I want to be a part of that battle. Marv Levy, the coach of the Buffalo Bills, was asked before his fourth consecutive losing Super Bowl if he considered this one to be a must-win. His response to the reporter was, must win. D-Day was a must-win. This is a football game. To that, I would say that the lives of teenagers in the Grand Strand is a must-win. It's a game that we've got to win. It's a light that we've got to pass on. But I believe that. I believe that I believe that we will. I believe that we will win. Under your chairs, you have a manila envelope, a small one if you would. Get it out. We're in the last 3 minutes of my talk. This is a card that's in there. The staff, the all-star staff of the Grand Strand would ask that you would kindly fill this out. Even if you came here to do nothing but listen to the stories and spend a couple of dollars at the cash bar and eat a tiny hamburger, please fill this out so that we can have record that you were here. And if nothing else, would you please sign up to be on the prayer email for prayer down there at the bottom. You can do giving in 3 ways on this. This is an incredibly interactive piece of paper. You can check it and write your name and then put a check in, which is what we did before credit cards, in the envelope. You can do that. You can fill out a voided check as well to set up your monthly pledge. You can fill in your information for automatic giving, or you can give through your credit card and get rewards points, which I highly suggest. You can do these things. You can also open your cell phone camera and point it at this nifty QR code, and it will take you to a giving platform where you can do all of that on your smartphone, tablet, or mobile device. And please put it back in. Now know this, there's nobody in here that would say that if you don't give a huge check to Young Life tonight that God doesn't love you or whatever. But why chance it? It's a dangerous world out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Please give. Please give monthly. Please give monthly so that you can stay involved. You guys know that the business side of the ministry needs healthy cash flow. If Young Life falls behind in its budget, the staff after 1 month goes on reduced pay, and if that doesn't correct itself in 3 months, the staff lose their jobs. We don't want that to happen. Would you guys please be a part of this? Thank you so much. I love you all.
Thank y'all so much for filling out those response cards. Like Cliff said, even if you're not able to give tonight, please fill out the front. We would love to get in contact with you. You know, when I texted Cliff and asked him how long he was going to need to talk, he lied to me. But it was worth every word. So give it up for Cliff Wright one more time. Hey, I'm so grateful that y'all decided to come tonight. We were honestly surprised that we were able to do a Young Life banquet at all. And so
Listen.
I'm sorry. Can I?
Listen.
Hey, I think I know you.
Had me crying on the plane.
I think that's a movie.
Had me crying on the plane.
Crying
Listen. I hope my stimulus check comes because I just wrote y'all a big old check.
Oh, well, thank you, Amelia. Appreciate
I'm
that.
going to be in trouble
I appreciate
if it
that.
doesn't come.
Hey, what happened to Sully? He was pretty good looking dude. Feels like he really had his life together.
I don't know that I can speak to that, but I don't know where he is.
Really?
Yeah.
Just disappeared.
Just bye.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Would you look at that?
Yeah.
So you're just like you're just doing the whole airline thing on your own now.
You know us women, we do it for ourselves, you know?
Oh, There she is. There she is.
Future's female.
Amelia, I appreciate you being here tonight, Amelia. I really do.
I'm glad to be here. I do have credit cards in the back.
Mm.
Credit cards.
Hey,
in
y'all,
the
give
back.
it up for Amelia. Hey, if you tuned in on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate that. Y'all, as you fill out those response cards, please put them back in the manila envelopes, and you can leave those under your chair. We'll come through and collect them. Please feel free to mingle, hang out. Thank you so much for being here tonight.